Welcome back to Hall of Fame College Football. I'm your host, Jason Watkins. He's the coach, Phillip Roybal, and we are soon to be coming to you live 5 days a week right here and everywhere you get your podcast content material. So make sure that you smash that red subscriber button, like our videos, and don't forget to ring the bell so you don't miss one moment of the Hall of Fame College Football Podcast. Coach Roybal back in the house. First time in a few weeks that we've had him in the house, man. Glad to have you back on, Coach. How are you?
Hey, it's great to be on, man. I feel naked when I don't get to be on here, man.
Hey, man, we've been talking ball. I've been having a lot of fun, but man, we miss you when you're not here, Coach. So I'm so glad you're here. We do have some special guests with us here tonight. There's a lot to talk about, Coach. A lot of stuff going on in recruiting. It's been, this seems to be the time when it starts heating up. When the weather gets hot, so does the recruiting. So we're gonna do some recruit talk. We're gonna do some recruiting talk, and let's bring in our special guest for tonight, Jay Smith from Unfair Sports, and from Talking College Football with JJKitchen. JJKitchen, what's up, fellas?
All right,
we have the crew in. What's good?
I know what's going on, fellas.
Those are two good dudes right there, man.
Hey, man, these
Coach.
Please make sure that you hit that like button. That is the best way to help creators like ourselves make sure that we are out there on that algorithm. Before we get into Elite 11, I want to talk about another Big 12 coach that has been really doing the thing. And now he had a kid at Elite 11 as well. But talking about Texas Tech, Joey McGuire. Guys, top 25 class for 2023. I don't remember the last time Texas Tech did that, right? I do not remember the last time they did that, okay? Even when Coach Leach was there, that's not what they were doing, right? They've got right now, I heard this today, and I was laughing about this. This is pretty good stuff. For an Oklahoma fan, this is cool. Micah Hudson canceled his official visit to Texas after his OV last weekend at Texas Tech. Micah Hudson's the number one receiver in the country. And he seems to be playing this pretty well. I like the way he plays around on social media. He's a pretty funny kid. But this kid is the real deal. They also signed right after their weekend that they just had Tyson Turner, a 4-star receiver as well. You've got Baron Morton coming in, he's going to be in the class this year, backing up, being the backup. But this is a kid that everybody expects to be a big-time quarterback moving forward. But not only that, the most impressive guy that didn't win the MVP at the Elite 11, Will Hammond, he lit it up over there. I mean, everybody. I've looked at 4 or 5 different articles plus videos and stuff like that, and everybody continues to bring up Will Hammond. What the hell is Joey McGuire doing to get these guys to go to Lubbock? What do you think's going on there, JJ?
I'll tell you what, and we talked about a little bit last night about Joey McGuire. Let me tell you something. Obviously, he's a hell of a coach for his first year, especially taking over a Texas Tech program that hasn't really had. When's the last time they had success? No. But when we look at this, okay, a guy that is a homestay at Texas, obviously a great Texas high school head coach, started with his roots there. I remember when they hired him, obviously he came from Baylor, was at Baylor. I knew it when they hired him, it was going to be a good spot for him. Whenever you're a guy that's down in Texas and you have the roots, but more importantly, the other coaches, and then on top of that, your reputation is as high as it is with him. You're kind of setting yourself up for immediate success. And when you're able to get a guy on campus like that, and they automatically stop, they decline the visit to Texas, you're basically what that means is he sold him on the vision of what Texas Tech can be. And again, we go back to it.
There too, by the way.
Relationships. It's the heartbeat of what they're trying to sell. They'll never be able to do anything towards of like NIL with what Texas is doing, but they're selling the relationship. Why the relationship is more important? We'll take care of you better than Texas can. Texas might have 10 guys that might be towards the same type of talent as you. Right. We might have talent like that, but we treat our players a lot better than what they do. It's not just a number game with us. We know our guys personally in and out. And it's not a 4-year decision. It's a 40-year decision.
That's
And
right.
you're selling the dream, and guys are understanding that. And now guess what? He's got something to sell on top of that. Hey,
Well, and
look what we did the
coaches
first year.
said all along, like when he was at Baylor, that was the guy that was the reason that Baylor was so good. Coach, you could top that in there because
Yeah.
that's
No,
you've been saying it a lot lately that you're not sold on Baylor whatsoever. So but ever since he left, I mean, obviously they did not have a good season last year, and it seems to be weird.
I'm telling you, and like you said, Jason, I've been preaching that for a while now. And when he left to go to Tech, that killed Baylor, and I think it's going to continue to do so. But he, again, and y'all said it already, he builds those relationships. Joey McGuire is one of the most genuine, good-hearted people, and when you talk to Joey, I mean, you can talk to him for 5 minutes and you already feel like he's your best friend.
Yeah.
And that's and he expects that from his staff as well, guys.
Mhm.
That's the expectation of his staff. You know what? If you're not genuine, then you don't need to be on this staff. And that's what's helping them recruit the type of kids that they're recruiting. And I'm just telling you, they're my team this year to be a surprise team and have an incredible season.
We talked about that last night as a dark horse in
We
the Big
did
12.
too, and folks, make sure
No
that
doubt.
you get over there. Check out the stream that we did last night on JJ's show. Talking college football with JJ Kitchen. We had a great time on his show last night. We talked about a lot of that, and I agree. It
Coach
made
hit
me
it right
kind
on
of
the
get
head.
into start looking at a lot of this stuff. But I mean, man, Will Hammond looked really, really good. I don't know how much you guys saw of this Elite 11. The kid's a stud athlete. The things that I was seeing out of him that was really, his athleticism was great. That was fine. But he threw the ball well, right? He comes in as a 3-star, but he had such a command of what they were doing, and his timing was really good. And obviously, you're not playing in pads or anything like that, but you can tell the difference in these kids, right? And out of everybody there, Dylan Raiola, you expected for him to do what he did, and he did great. He looked really good. You've got guys like, obviously we'll get into that a little bit more here in just a minute. But I mean, a lot of the guys that you expected to do that. But I heard Josh Pate earlier saying, man, nobody expected this, and he's the first guy I talked to, and
his accuracy was impeccable.
It was impeccable.
You know, if you saw him on the 7-on-7 pieces, 10 for 13, guys.
Yeah.
And you guys know this. You're not just throwing against some slugs out there. You're throwing
they
against
bring in
other great
studs.
D1
They bring in
kids.
studs. Yeah,
exactly.
They bring in
The
some of the best
studs are
receivers.
there.
They bring in some of the best DBs in the country
Yes.
to go to Elite 11. That's not just a quarterback thing. So yeah, it was pretty impressive, man. And so for this guy to be able to get in there, and how much of that, Jay, do you think has to do with beating Oklahoma and Texas last season?
Ooh.
I mean, it doesn't happen very often.
You sell it,
those
baby.
It
guys,
doesn't.
right?
It doesn't.
Hey.
It doesn't.
But when you're recruiting, you sell it. You
better.
go out there and sell, hey, we beat these guys. We're on the rise.
And that's a good leveraging point when it comes to on the recruiting trail. So remind players like, oh yeah, we beat them the last few years. I mean, I bet Kansas was doing that all the time when they was going against Texas. It's like, yeah,
Sure.
we beat them 2 years in a row, and we beat them in Texas. And so, I guess now the question is going to be
1,200 days that Texas didn't beat Kansas, man.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's true. It's been a while. So I'm guessing the question is going to be how much more of that will Tech use going forward when it comes to the recruiting?
Yeah, but but how much do you think has to do with the fact that they did do that? I mean, he came in and I mean, it's like Coach said, you can listen to him talk, and he's inspiring. You're going to hear him, and I liked hearing what he had to say in the locker rooms and stuff like that.
Yeah,
and from everything that you hear about what he was doing at Baylor as the assistant head coach, they loved him, and obviously things weren't as good last season at Baylor, and we're going to find out if they are. And it could be as simple as the quarterback kind of sucked last year, but he could be better, and we'll find out. But honestly, I think something's up there too. The more I listen to Coach say it, and the more and even like I've heard Logan said it, our guys from Lone Star that we talk to a lot, he's talked about it too, that he's just not sure. He's just not sure what's going on either. And, and he hates it. The coach says the shit all the time, but I think he's coming around too. Honestly, I just feel like, yeah, he should have it mounted on his desk, man. Listen, think about it. It's how many coaches, period, can say that they beat Texas and Oklahoma in the same season from any school, right? What happened? We just lost Jay. Oh, he may have just told me he was out. Yeah, about to jump. Okay, yeah, sorry about that, Jay. Man, I should have let him. Oh yeah, he did say great hanging. Glad you came in. Hey, Jay's one of my favorites, man. He's got to jump on the live himself as well. But listen, yeah. Bottom line is, to me, this is a guy that is. Look, you just don't see it very often that you're going to get top 25 classes. And this class, from what I can tell, they're only going to get about 14 kids. So they're probably not going to stay. They're not going to get that high up in the rankings because there's just by the number of kids they're going to get, right? It's just not going to be enough to be in the top 10 probably. But it's the kids that they're getting. And, when you talk about the guys that they already got with Baron Morton, and Okie Cody talks about this guy a lot. This kid looks like he's going to be very, very good. And the guy that they got in right now is really good, right? And so you look at that, and then you got Will Hammond coming in right behind him, and then, man, if you're Micah Hudson, it's not that hard to be sold on something like that. And by the way, Micah's dad also played at Tech. So that, it is a legacy there. But that doesn't, when you're the number one receiver in the country, you can go where the hell you want. You know what I mean? And and if your dad played at Tech, he knows what it's like to not win. So it's kind of hard unless you can sell. It's not the same as being a legacy to Texas or Oklahoma, right? It's really not, because Tech, and I'm not hating on Tech, I'm saying that they just don't have that history of being a championship program. So go ahead, Coach.
And that's understandable, because you got to look at too. Look at Texas to begin with, and the Division I programs that are there. There's a lot of talent in Texas, but guess what? When you got 4 or 5 different D1 schools that are in there, when you got Texas Tech, Baylor, Texas A&M. Usually your Texas A&M and your Texas will take it, and obviously Oklahoma's not too far away, so they're going to dip in there. Plus you'll have Alabama dip in there, Georgia dip in there. So you're dealing with a lot of different aspects. That's why it's very challenging. In Texas, obviously being the brand really in the major market in Texas, but I think what makes Texas Tech so valuable and so attractive is the coaching development, but the culture that he's building there. You can't deny that. And I think it's why a lot of these kids are starting to look at that. I think the tide's starting to change a little bit. When you walk in there day one, first year, and you get at least 8 wins, you're changing something. And now you have something to sell, and now you're really starting to shift. Now you can really start to look at other schools and say, man, Sark's been over at Texas for how many years now? Hasn't done anything. What's he been doing? So it's going to be interesting to see, hey, how can we leverage this? It's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah. And look, man, I covered Tech for a good amount of time. And we living in that area and stuff like that. You get to know some of these Tech folks. There's some good people there. There's some crazy people over there too. But listen, the bottom line is that they love a winner over there. I'll tell you that. When they start winning, and whether it be in basketball or whatever it is, they get behind them very much so. So I think that he's doing a hell of a job, and no matter what, you gotta give him props for what he's done. We talked about the things that you're seeing from, obviously Coach Venables is starting to catch his stride out there on the recruiting trail, but that's what we were talking about coming into the show. Was there's a lot of competition. This is not a place you're used to seeing the competition come from if you are Oklahoma. And you are getting competition here. That's different. And so we needed to talk about it. So let's go ahead and go ahead, Coach. Yes.
And let me just say this. Another thing, guys, he's doing a hell of a job recruiting there, because so let's just use Texas as an example. You want to, as a kid, a player coming in, you want to go to Austin or you want to go to Lubbock? Let exactly. And but I tell you what, just looking at Tech and talking about Joey's recruiting, guys, he's got I think 4 or 5 4-star players that they traditionally don't get. They play football with 3 stars, 3-star type players all the time and have for years. But
when Leach was there,
speaks
that's
volumes.
what happened. Yeah, and somebody said something about Leach took them to number 2. Well, what happened when they got to number 2? They got thumped. Yeah. They got thumped by Oklahoma. They didn't make it into the play or into the championship game. And listen, I mean, they had beaten Texas, but on the Crabtree play that he tiptoed that sideline. I mean, that was one of the most amazing plays ever, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And that wasn't because of Leach. I mean, and I love Coach Leach. Don't get me. And by the way, let's we should say that Coach Leach was voted into their Hall of Honor this past weekend, which I'm very excited to hear about that. That's big for them. And good for. And listen, man, we're going to be covering Tech a lot coming up. We just have to. We're in the area, and Oklahoma's not playing them this year, so. Man, it's weird to me, right? Unless you get them in the championship game, which I really do believe, like you said earlier, they are a dark horse team. I think it's them, and I think it's K-State that are those dark horse teams that if Oklahoma and Texas don't make it in, it's going to be one of those 2 teams. I don't think that I can't really see another one.
And Jason, you talked about that a little bit, from before too. Texas has the roster, but guess what? Kansas, they got the coaching. Texas Tech, they got the coaching. So you look at it from a perspective of, what can it actually look like? I don't know. I really question Texas at this point. I think that these coaches, they understand Kansas State has proven that Chris Klein has done a hell of a job at Kansas State. He's done a tremendous job.
Kleiman and the other, we talked about it last night. Both of the Kansas coaches are insane.
Yeah, Coach Leipold. Unreal.
Very, very good.
Absolutely. Yes.
Hey, you guys all know the drill, right? Say it with me. Smash that red subscriber button. Like our videos. And don't forget to ring the notification bell so you don't miss one moment of the Hall of Fame College Football Podcast.